All right, well, hello everybody, how do you do? My name's Charlie Dickinson, no relation, but thank you very much, never heard that one before. I'm going to be talking to you today about operational technology with a little bit of a Dungeons & Dragons slant on it. So, just for continuity and for my own awareness, raise your hands if you know what OT stands for, or need to figure out if I need a little refresher. Alrighty, for those who don't know, OT is IT's evil twin. OT stands for operational technology, and it's any digital process that interacts with the physical world. Reads a value, reads a sensor, a temperature, something like that, or it makes a change in the physical world. Pushes something, ignites something, makes something happen. I like to say that it's just IT wherever you don't have any carpets on the floor. I've seen a lot of OT. I've had a few different roles because I get really itchy in one role for too long. So I'll do a little bit of an about me, your dungeon master for today. It is important to let you know that I am actually a dungeon master. Dungeons & Dragons, running a 15-year campaign. I hate all of my players. For those of you who play Dungeons & Dragons, you'll probably know why. They regularly find good reasons to make me question my life's choices. But when I'm not doing that, I am a director at Ernst & Young. I lead the operational technology cybersecurity advisory practice, which means that I get to go around to loads of different OT dungeons for big clients with different machinery and different equipment that do all sorts of peculiar things. If I keel over or start slurring my words, it's because 6 hours ago I was on a flight back from Texas where I was running a 1-week assessment on a factory that made circuit boards from smaller circuit boards and even smaller little bits and pieces. I mentioned before that I don't spend very long in a job. I'll just quickly canter through how I got to where I am now. Started off as a boring student, commissioned into the Royal Air Force. I'm going to keep the aviation theme going here a little bit after our last speaker. Was sent to look after a big space radar on the North Yorkshire moors. You fine Yorkshire folk, I'm sure some of you have been to Whitby before. You'll have seen the great big cheese grater. That was my radar, and it had a power station too, so got into the whole power station game. Then I went and was in charge of developing software for a really cool bunch of people at a really cool place. And then when they offered me to go back to the rest of the Royal Air Force and do password resets and the like, a very nice man with a very nice car said that he'd give me a lot of money to go and do something different. So I took him up on that and left the Royal Air Force. That got a bit boring because I was doing the same job, trying to build some HR software with a hardware component. Here's a big top tip for anybody if you're thinking of starting a hardware business during COVID, when all of your components go out of stock and you need to recertify the board 3 times over. It's anyway, so I had to look for a new job, and fortunately Ernst & Young was hiring, and that leaves me to where I am today. So I've been doing this for 4 years, which means it is now the Charlie Dickinson personal record for how long I've spent in an actual role. And the reason that I like it so much and I stay there is because I get to do lots of different things. I get to go to lots of different client sites, talk to lots of different people with lots of different problems. And so I've got a good bit of experience. I've been to 40 sites now. I have probably seen most of the most heinous cybersecurity fails that you could possibly imagine. Obviously, I won't be naming names. That's the EY guarantee of we will look after your secrets and we'll talk about them, around them, but we will not name you directly in them. So I'm there now, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit in Dungeons & Dragons style about some of the 4 big cyber dragons that I see in the OT dungeons that I visit. The first, and probably the one that you'll all be familiar with, is legacy technology. So, for anybody here actually responsible for any OT in your business? You okay? Let's take a little quick straw poll over here. What's the oldest bit of machinery you've got in your facility?
About 27 years.
27 years? Okay, fantastic. So that's a good midpoint. Yeah, you've got a relatively new plant. The problem with OT is that, and I've seen it before, went to a site in Romania. This site made widgets of some sort, and they'd been making widgets for 120 years. And they'd started off with an elaborate production line with lots of burly men with lots of great ideas and fashioning items out of raw steel and crafting whatever it was that they made. And that production line was great. And then 30 years later or so, somebody said, we have a machine that can replace lots of the strong arm movements and things like that. We could do some of this automatically for you. These folks said, yeah, absolutely, we'll take that. Very good. So now man stands at machine, pulls lever, does a thing, it does it quicker than it did before. Great. 20 years passed, 30 years passed. Now, how about these machines here? It's actually, wouldn't it be useful if this machine here on the line spoke to this machine here on the line and said, oh boy, get ready, the part's coming along, and now you would only need to have one person at the start of the line pulling the lever, and then something will happen, something will happen, something will happen. They said, absolutely, yes, sign us up. And then 20 or 30 years later, the machinery that was also very clever there, they had got a new fancy machine in the little head office on the mezzanine looking down over the factory floor. And this had the most evil of all God's creations, Microsoft Excel in it. And they thought, wouldn't it be fantastic? Wouldn't it be fantastic if we could get an email with the parts that we wanted and we could print something off and take it down to the site and say, hey, instead of just making machines and widgets on Vibes, you could see exactly what we needed you to make that day. I said, yes, sounds good, sign us up. We're going to connect this thing to a network, fax machine, modem, whatever. There it is. And then 20 years later, or probably quicker, I'm losing track. I think we're in the 2100s by now with my rudimentary rambling. But at some point, they said, you know what would be really great? We're done with Microsoft Excel. The devil has come up with an even more evil creation, which is SAP and Enterprise Resource Planning. Now we're going to skip the part where we print something off Microsoft Excel, trundle it down the stairs to the production line. The system knows what it needs to make. And it's fantastic because we've already got everything on a sort of a network right now, and we can talk to it from the machine up here, and there's a nice man in a fancy jacket who's going to set it all up for us. And that's how most OT systems, in my experience, have grown. Most brownfield OC systems that have been around for more than 20 years have gone through all of this rapid change where new functionality becomes available, becomes more efficient, and all of a sudden you've got a machine with a completely flat network with an SAP server somewhere talking to a manufacturing execution server, talking to a CNC machine, talking to something like that. And the security, I'm not going to do much of a disservice to my dear Romanian friends there, but it wasn't considered at any point along that journey. And so now looking at it, we have to figure out how to put it back in. But the legacy issue comes because when those devices, those expensive CNC machines were added, when whatever tech was put in there, they were very expensive capital purchases. Do you have any particularly cheap OT in your facility? No, I doubt it. Maybe there will be one day, but these things are expensive. These things are, up in the, gosh, I really hope the site doesn't burn down before we get the insurance policy set up. And when you put these things in, you're stuck with them. You're not going to have Charlie Dickinson show up on your site with a clipboard and a load of young graduates to try and give you advice saying, oh, no, sir, this is running Windows XP. You really should upgrade it to Windows 11, because the software that's designed to run this machine, I've seen MRI machines, I've seen a £1 million piece of equipment that spins wires into other wires and things like that with Windows XP, DOS, things like that attached to it. The company that made those pieces of hardware no longer exists. There's nobody to ring up. If you ring that phone number, it's been reassigned to a hat store in Stuttgart. There is no way that you can ask them for the Windows 11 version of the software that's running it. So you've got to keep it. The way to get around these things, the thing that we say is, let's try and upgrade whatever we can. There's no reason why the Microsoft Excel machine 3 boots down can't be upgraded to Windows 11. But the machine running that £1 million wire spinning something or other, what can we do to actually put protections in around it? We might be talking about network detection and response, something like Nozomi Networks, Clarity, sits on the network, sits around the actual bit of OT that needs to be able to communicate with SAP for some infernal reason or something like that. So the joke here, protective spells can't be applied to this monster. You're not going to be running CrowdStrike Falcon on an MS-DOS machine anytime soon to mitigate risks like these. My poor security guard there is holding a pitchfork while the monster's showing up with a laser gun. So legacy technology, that's one thing. That's a big part of OT. It's the reason that we have to protect OT slightly differently. They're the crown jewels, if you will. They don't have security baked into them. I actually, when I have to do a penetration test of an OT facility, we get really worried about what happens if the simplest of all of God scans, the TCP SYN scan, or even just a ping, is it going to be safe for us to do it? And I have to say, well, there's no reason on this good earth why that should knock the machine over, but it has happened before, and I am compelled to tell you, as part of my Hippocratic oath, do no harm, that going active in any way could lead to something negative. So, if you can't fix things, what else can you do? You can try and keep it away from all of the stuff that is scary. And this is a thing that people do terribly as well. Looking back to our Romania example, the network segmentation. So, there's that lovely little flock of sheep, all of our OT sitting merrily in the facility. Nice big gates. They've got a Palo Alto Defender. I have multiple clients whose chief information security officers play golf with the Palo Alto sales team, and everything has to be Palo Alto. There is an organization that knows what to invest in, and it's golf tee times. But you can have all the most fancy and wonderful fences and gates in the world. If you have not got those gates around the right things, if you've got a gap somewhere else, then the bad thing's going to get in on the side. We see network segmentation, poor network segmentation, in a load of different ways. The worst thing that you can possibly see is that big flat network that I described earlier, connected directly to the internet, and it is, for whatever unforeseeable and unknowable reason, it is directly connected to the internet. So if you're familiar with Shodan, the search engine of choice for people who like to do terrible things, you can go on there and search for particular programmable logic controllers, particular types of OT endpoints that are connected directly to the internet. Don't do that. Don't have your OT connected directly to the internet. But then it goes down a level, and then maybe you don't have it connected directly, but it's still on a flat network, and you've got the IT on there, and the OT on the same network. This is one of the things that we try and get customers to avoid. One of the simplest things that you can do is say, this zone over here is your IT, this zone over here is your OT. Just let the OT talk to each other, put a big old firewall or something, even just an access control list in the way to stop them from talking to each other unless they have a damned good reason to do so. And you can prevent a huge amount of harm. Can't stop it forever, but this model of zones and conduits that's called out in the holy book, the ISO 62443, is one of the main ways we go to protect networks. The network detection and response as well works nicely here. Anytime you're going to have something leaving a zone through a conduit, you can have it piped through that wonderful observability platform. You can try to look for the malicious activity. Why, you can even turn that network detect response tool to manage your asset inventory. In my experience going to clients, asset inventory is a spreadsheet that was correct for about 5 minutes one day 10 years ago and hasn't been correct since. The idea then of an automated asset inventory is fantastic. But of course, yes, you have now populated a database with a load of things saying, could somebody please add the data to this to make it relevant? And that really busy automation engineer. I'm yet to meet an automation engineer who is not very busy. They do not have time to go and say, this is in room 3, these coordinates, and I'm the responsible asset owner for it. So, network segmentation, that's a big one that we see. I went to a facility once that had a furnace. They were roasting something, and this was a global organization, and we proved that you could go into a store anywhere on the planet, and you could plug your laptop into one of the RJ45 ports, one of the network switches in that store on the other side of the planet, and you could ping, and already I'm getting terrified, you could ping one of the furnaces in this roasting plant, and then we did a little bit more digging, and turns out you could do a little bit of a port scan, and Nmap's coming back, and port 80. Oh, good Lord, time to sit down. And sure enough, it was a Rockwell PLC that had what was a 0 day at the time. It had a massive vulnerability on it that would let you, without authentication, take it over, and you could get the furnace to do whatever you like. We decided that we could just show that to the client rather than demonstrating it, but they were not happy about that. They did, in fact, then turn on some form of network segmentation. If you've got poor network segmentation, it makes this next one all the worse. Poor authentication. So you might be thinking, well, Charlie, hang on a second. This is OT we're talking about here. You know, you were telling me about human-machine interfaces on a factory floor. I don't want to be going there, logging in with my username and my 16-digit password, symbols, numbers, putting a multi-factor in. Here's a passkey, here's some blood, and unlocking it. And that's not what I'm getting at, right? I mean, having some level of authentication on a human-machine interface in a facility is great for, say, stopping people from reconfiguring it. Good Lord, is it fun if somebody changes the change settings password on the PLC and then forgets what it is. It is a great afternoon to try and go in and get that working again. I know that because I've done it and the customer wasn't happy. But I'm talking about the more nefarious forms of authentication for network exposed services. So if you are on a network and anybody on the planet can reach into that OT facility, bad network segmentation, then having some form of authentication is great. We do recommend usually that you have split authentication, so have an IT Entra ID, maybe an OT one, but just having something would be ideal. We usually see customers having a lot of shared passwords, so my standard go-to, I've been to 40 OT sites in the last 4 years. I will find a password in that facility. It'll be under the mouse mat, it'll be under the keyboard, or most often it'll just be sellotaped to the screen and they have no shame and they just shrug and look at me and say, well, what else are we supposed to do? Which is a fair one, but there are things that need doing in this regard. The worst secure remote access I've seen, and I've seen it at maybe half the sites, is you're walking around the shop floor, got your clipboard, writing things down, there's no shielding on that network cable, but it'll be an active team viewer right up on the screen. Team viewer free license. Team viewer free license, unattended login. So somebody somewhere just has a ID and a password that never changes, so they can log in whenever they want. And then the worst one is unattended login. Here's same ID, same password, one active session, and you say to the automation engineer, my dear friend, is this the vendor? And they say, what? They have no idea who's logged into it. So get yourself a proper secure remote access solution would be one thing over there. We also have not just the kind of authentication for network services, but having some sort of authentication on actual wireless setups as well. So I've been to a few locations where you'll have what we call an RF zap gun. I believe they do have a real name, but effectively it's a barcode reader on Wi-Fi, connects to SAP. You'd think that they only support WEP encryption from the amount of times I see it on there. I have to tell clients, yes, you can put certificates on them, or yes, you can do something better than have the same insecure password for the last 100 years. One particularly exciting one was they had a spinning wheel of death, I described it as. I forget the exact purpose of it, but it was effectively one of those many-ton cable drums, spooling up a nice cable, and they had to pull the cable off one drum and put it onto another one. No idea why, seems rather self-defeating, but the way that you spool it on is that you take one end of the cable, you take it to the big spinning machine that can pull a metal cable this thick off a reel, and then you put it in with your arm and twist it like that. Then you hold it, and then you advance the spinning thing, which makes sense, right? That seems like a sensible system to me. And they had a control on the panel over here where they could spin the wheel, and the panel was nice and far away from the drum, which seemed safe. But they had clearly found the act of putting the wire in, walking over to the panel, to be tiresome. And so they had fitted a garage door opener. It was with wires dangling literally from what literally looked like it had been pulled off somebody's garage roof, garage ceiling, and just stapled to the side. And they were holding it in one hand and moving it. Now, I'm not saying that this site was going to be attacked by nation-state actors who'd staked the place out and had a full RF scan and figure out what they were going to do, and they were going to turn that wheel at the exact moment that somebody had their arm in it. But when we work with security, we try to avoid scenarios where the only thing stopping a bad person from doing a bad thing is knowing about it. With security through obscurity, right? They didn't believe that it was a problem, so I took out my trusty Raspberry Pi. I read the signal. I said, watch this, and beep, beep, beep. The thing started spinning, and there were a lot of quick conversations, and the lines were cut. So I'm glad we saw that one before somebody actually did think to have a go at that. But that brings me on to probably the thing I see most of all, and it's particularly difficult in OT, and that is the skeptical leadership. So I love my clients. I love the CISOs, the people with the budgets, the people who make all of these decisions, but it's really difficult. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here. Everybody here who works in cyber, who has a boss, you want to buy the latest widgets, please, Falcon, it's great, I love it, thank you. And they say, why? Why should I spend money? We've never been hacked before. That means we'll never be hacked in the future. And it's a tough one to articulate at times, right? Those of us working in these positions where we have to sort of come up with a budget and justify it, we have to put it into whatever language we can to get the CFO or Moneybags or whoever it is to sign off on things like this. I've had a few times where I've done really well at trying to articulate it. I've had times where I've done particularly badly. One of the times I did it badly, for anybody who's ever tried to do a risk register in cyber, okay, we all know the mathematical probability for risk. Risk equals probability times consequence. Consequence, very easy. This is the money-making machine. It makes £100 a day. It will be turned off for one day. You will lose £100. Everybody's clapping like seals. They all believe me. We're all on board together. It's this top row here for probability. So, Charlie, what is the probability that the money-making machine will be turned off? Oh, it's not impossible, sir. It could be done. There are nation states and things like that. No, sure, Charlie. But how likely is it? What's the percentage? Because multiple of this, and so it's cheaper it's 50% chance that it's going to happen, means I'll spend 50% of the consequence, or minus £1, and it's cheaper to fix it than it is to suffer it. And there are things you can do with cyber risk quantification, but I'd just come out of my CISP exam. And so I was ready with an answer for everything, and I knew about the annualized rate of occurrence. And so I said, well, we need to treat this as the annualized rate of occurrence, sir. And what we're going to do is, I think, judging from this IBM X-Force threat data and some similar attacks here, the annualized rate of occurrence is once in 20 years. And he nods and says, well, I've been here 25 years and it's never happened, so what good is that? Please, if anybody actually has a better answer to that, then do send me a postcard on how to do it. Risk quantification, if you've got a fancy rubric for it, there's Azure, there's the Microsoft threat modeling, there's some fancier ones. You can also really articulate some of the risks, some of the, hey, maybe we aren't as good as we think, or what would happen if we didn't prepare for it. Doing a tabletop exercise, that's something that we spend a lot of time with our customers. They really enjoy it because we sort of start off nice and easy, and they get to say, well, we just activate that plan you wrote for us, Charlie. And then around lunchtime, after they've got been lulled into a sense of complacency, then we really get them with, well, actually, you don't have network segmentation, and this would be over in a couple of hours' time. In general, though, we see a lot of an improvement over the last even just 5 years that I've been doing this. It seems like OT is becoming more and more popular. You're probably seeing a good third of the talks here today about it. Maybe 10 years ago there would have been one, and I think it's going to keep on being more and more on people's mind, especially as we start going forward and getting a lot more interconnectivity between the IT and the OT, virtualized SCADA systems, and all those fresh horrors that things like that will bring as well. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. I've been Charlie Dickinson. Do feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. Come find me if you have any questions. Thanks for your time.
A few minutes for questions, so feel free to ask him here while he's up here.
Going once, going twice.
What's your favourite colour?
Chartreuse.
What? Very good, actually. What's your character? Your most favourite character you've ever done in a campaign?
Well, so as a dungeon master, I must abstain from such things. But when I am occasionally allowed, I play a sorcerer who really just loves the sound of his own voice, which, as a dungeon master, is sort of the main symptom of that particular dilemma anyway. So, yeah, I just play myself.
Anybody?
I shan't be offended. I'll sit down. It's okay. I'll let you get to your beers.
The last one. Have you done the deck of many things on your team yet?
Yes, so the team are at level 18 at the moment. They've been level 18 for the last year. I've told them that they cannot level up until they start behaving. And they have the requisite experience, but the deck of many things is a little bit too game-breaking, actually. Yeah. Maybe that's like a last day sort of level 20, the final big bad, and away we go.
That happened in my campaign, so yeah. Thank you very much. Give him a round of applause.
So,